Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is good. Hey, everyone in the chat: Stuart, Greg, Mo, Cliff. You guys have got great punctuation. Love it. I'm just out here lowercasing everything, and here you are doing it all right. So we've heard it sounds good, but I need to know, does it sound great? Because I got a little telling off last time. So everyone says it sounds good. We'll crack on. We'll see what happens. Hope everyone's doing good. Feels like a lifetime since I last spoke, mainly because I decided to treat my body like I was still 21, which didn't work so well after 4 days of that. But we're back, and you know, there's a bit of life in crypto. There's a bit of life all about, actually. So we're gonna have a little chat about it. I mean, today's theme, if you will, you know, we've got the halving out of the way. We talked about the ETF for 6 months. We then talked about the halving for 4 months. Well, they're both done now. Where's that leave us? Is it time to actually really start thinking about this bull market, heating up? Now, we've already been in the bull market. I truly believe that. But I'm talking about, you know, we're getting the boiling water going. This thing's going to skyrocket. So we'll have a look at where that might take us, what that might mean, and sort of what indications we can have a look at. There's a tiny bit of news to cover. To be honest, I've not really been keeping my eye on too much this week. And then we've got some questions that were already asked, so we'll go through those. But I do actually think today we might get it done in around about 60 minutes. We'll see whether or not that is true. Let's hope so anyway. So let's just dive straight in. Have a look at some of the charts we've got here. So Bitcoin, as I said, we're going to go into a bit more detail with Bitcoin today. But last week we were, let's just blow it up onto the bigger screen. So I'm on the 12-hour chart here at the moment. So we were kind of down at 62 last time we met, and we thought that maybe we might hit that 60,000 level. We did actually dip just slightly below it, but we've had another good strong bounce from that, and we'll have a look at where that means. But at the moment, we're kind of sitting in the middle of the range that we've been in for, let's face it, the last 2.5 months. And I dare say that we'll look back on this in, you know, many months' time as a significant accumulation period for whales. That's what I think the data, the on-chain data, will tell us in a few months' time. Generally, it's kind of lagging. But this does feel like we are ranging now. And historically, not wanting to spoil where we're going with this, that's generally been a good thing. We have a look at some of the other alts that we like to follow. So actually, Casper, it has actually made a decent move over the last sort of 24, 36 hours, and it's continuing to make that move at the moment. It's still got a bit of an area around about 14 cents. Sorry, I should move this onto the big screen as well so you guys can see it all. But here we go. So yeah, so sort of approaching that 13.26 level. We got a bit of noise anywhere from about 13.5 to 14, which I think you need to get out of. And it has been making these steady sort of, we had a nice double top here, drop down, move back up, drop down, move back up, and drop back down. So really, I'd actually kind of like it to at least clear 14. So we can try and get out of this trend at the moment, because unfortunately, it's lower low and lower high after lower low and lower high. So yeah, a little bit of work there to do, but hey, we're moving in the right direction for now. Ethereum is not looking as good as Bitcoin, I'll be perfectly honest with you. And again, we'll go into the details of why later on. But again, you know, what we've had here is we've had this sharp move up, retrace back down, feels more like a dead cat bounce, failed right again, and then we're up. And this feels like a compression. We kind of know what happens with rising compressions. So maybe we've got another retest of that 3,000 level. We'll have a bit more of a look into that one later on. But then the one we're all banking on, good old Tau, get on the big screen. And actually, to be fair to Tau, I think this one has done better. Probably because unlike a lot of the other altcoins, it ranged around here, and it then also started to drop a little bit earlier. But what we have started to see is, yes, okay, we do need change of movement, but we've had that move down, we've had this climb back up, and actually, that was the worst line you could have freehandedly drawn. Some sort of pattern there. That was really badly drawn again. So we have broken up to the upside of a rising compression. Not normally what happens, and potentially then what we're just seeing is a Kobo back before we go up. But let's not get excited. That 560 level for me, a lot of support and resistance there. We'd want to break through that, and then as we go dive in later on and perhaps some lower time frames, we can actually have a look at some other key levels to just make sure that the trend has reversed. But it is good, you know. I think for the past 4 or 5 months, a lot of greeders in the market. We've seen some decent resets on those over the last week or two. I dare say that even back end of last week, there's quite a bit of fear in the market, which is good. Every once in a while, it's nice to be punched in the face. It's never nice to be punched in the face, but you know what I mean? It's nice to get that shock to realize that we are still alive, we're still going, reset our goals, and come back. And actually, since the back end of last week, we have generally seen some positive moves. And I don't know if that's been reflected in your portfolios, but it's certainly been reflected in mine. But I know that everyone still loves this website, so I've got it here. Halving. That's it. You're right. March 15th, 2028. Mark it in your calendars now. It's a mere 1,416 days away. And actually, by then, we'll have crossed over 1 million blocks. So we've not achieved that. We've never achieved that in the history of Bitcoin. Matter of fact, it's 210,000 blocks per halving. We've done 840,562 now. So yeah, by the time we get there, we'll have cost 1 million. And that is estimated to be somewhere around the 11th of April, 2027. So I'm sure that'll be I'm not saying it's a pumpable event, but I'm sure that'll be a highly talked about event just because it's 1 million, it's a milestone. And anyway, moving on. I should have just said, if you've got any questions, please obviously drop them into the chat. I will periodically look over and try not to miss anyone's. Okay, a little bit of news, not too much. We won't go into too much details from it, but we did talk about this last year, so I thought it was only right that we just round off this case. So the SEC brought a lawsuit against Debtbox, which were cryptocurrency, and within that lawsuit, they also provided evidence to the judge to say that we need to freeze their assets. Freeze their assets because they're flight risk, they might try and steal the money, whatever. The judge kind of went, yeah, all right then, we'll freeze their assets. However, in the actual trial and subsequent disclosure, or whatever the terms are, sorry, not a solicitor, turned out that the SEC solicitors, lawyers, attorneys actually made up the evidence. And it was determined that there was a gross abuse of power in the case, as it said here. Well, those two attorneys, Michael Walsh and Joseph Watkins, have now resigned. They're no longer attorneys at the SEC. Not necessarily a massive move or shaker, but I did actually see some pretty wild claims now that the SEC in-house attorneys are, jumping ship like rats, and it is an absolute slam dunk case that the ETF will be approved in May, because obviously one of the biggest nooses around that at the moment is the fact that we still don't know what a security is. And everyone keeps on saying that Ethereum is one. So till we can actually define that, not sure the ETF's ever going to be approved. But Debtbox may have been another chink in the armor with the SEC about getting towards clarifying exactly where the security lies. Anyway, just thought I'd round that one off. And another one that did catch my eye was Bitcoin, because we moaned forever about how expensive Ethereum gas fees are. But actually in and around the halving, because of so much transaction activity, we actually saw that fees spiking as high as $170 for a Bitcoin transaction fee. Mere chump change in the good old days of the Ethereum network, not so much now, but for Bitcoin, that is pretty expensive. And yep, that stayed up for, I don't know, day and a half, relatively high, before we're sort of moving back down. And obviously they're back down to normal levels in and around $8. Which still is pretty high. We're so used to the likes of Solana and Polygon and other layer 1/layer 2s that have reduced transaction fees. I do think that Bitcoin still is relatively high. One of the reasons, or two of the reasons, obviously, just the amount of transactions in and around the halving. And then there's this other, I don't want to say it's a fad at the moment, and I don't really want to go into too much detail on it, but inscriptions, maybe something that you start to come across on Twitter or in YouTube videos, and ruins NFTs. And effectively, it's taking the actual individual Satoshis and inscribing data within those. And that's something that you can do. And you know what? I actually kind of see some real world use for that, in terms of no more can people rewrite the internet. If it's actually inscribed within the blockchain, then you could put data, whatever it is, law cases, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm sure people will find a use for it. And I could see a use for that. But at the moment, people are, looking at that from NFT point of views and trying to get significant Satoshis. And so obviously one of the most, why can't I speak today? One of the most significant blocks, group Satoshis, everything else was in and around the halving, which was obviously 840,000. So again, the on-chain analytics seems to suggest that there was a lot of action in and around trying to be the person that got that, because then you could sell it on a hell of a lot more. So anyway, it is moving down, but it was interesting that the price seemed to go up so much. What we're going to do is, I think we'll just tackle some of the questions first. It won't take too long to get through those, and then we can just focus more just on some charting and everything else. So hopefully that's okay with everybody. And Ian was the first to ask whether or not I had to read this 2 or 3 times. Can I have a look at Genus? Very careful what I said there. Looks a wonderful AI project with a low market cap, and it's launched by ex-NVIDIA employees. Ian, I'm not sure if you're on the call, but actually there wasn't much for me to do today, so I did have a look at it. So I'm going to run through it now, but hopefully this is the one you meant, because it kind of threw me off when I went on CoinMarketCap, because you had Genius token and NFT collections. I was like, you haven't asked about NFTs. But when I went on to CoinGecko, it was the same price, but it was Genius AI. So maybe it's just an issue with CoinMarketCap or what have you. The website, not a great, Jesus, the way that G's written as well, it's catching me out. So maybe it's just the immature half-cut individual in me, but that's certainly read a little bit different in my head. But here's the website. So what's actually, I'm not going to dive in. It's not going to be like a 10-15 minute video on this, because I just don't think they get that much attention. But Ian, obviously, if you do want to look into it further, then I suggest you do that. So Genus is a lot like a lot of other AI processing projects out there, and it is utilizing spare computational power of your computers to undertake tasks, whether they be AI-based, machine learning, video rendering, etc., etc. So a lot like some of the stuff we cover in DNX, a lot like some of the stuff and some of the that's in BitTensor, Render, loads of other AI projects that we've actually gone over. So it's a very similar project within that. Now it does operate on its own blockchain, and it also will have dApps within it. So it will ultimately create its own ecosystem. As you mentioned, it is a particularly low market cap. It's about 31 million at the moment, and it's sitting around just under the 3,000 level there. It's got about $800,000 worth of 24-hour volume. The vast majority of those are on decentralized exchanges. It has only about 1.5% of its supply circulating at the moment, which I don't think is a particularly good place to be in. And if you actually have a look at it, this token itself has actually only been out since the end of March. So we're only talking about 3 weeks. So it is very, very new. Now, interestingly, yes, it is on Ethereum. I don't like that. It is also on Polygon, which is obviously a layer 2 on Ethereum. So, okay, that's a little bit better. But actually, and I've not really read too much into it, it's also a BRC20 token, and it will be available on Solana and the Cardano native network. So, okay, fair enough. It's got a white paper, and the white paper explains what it does. So if you're interested in that, have a read within it. What the white paper doesn't have is a tokenomics section, which is obviously pretty disappointing, because that's one of the key things that I look at. But everything generally is there, how you go about paying it. It's got flow diagrams for how it works. But ultimately, you raise for a task. That task then gets sent to a series of computers. Your spare computational power undertakes the work. Once the work is complete and reviewed by the client, if it's accepted, they obviously have to pay for the service, and then you are paid for your computational power. You're paid in the token. And then what you do with that token, you can either use it for their ecosystem, or you can go and sell it. And that's it. And that's very much like what DNX was like when we went through that. Okay, going back to the website, I think the website's pretty pants, got to be honest. New projects, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but if you're in AI, have a better website. There is going to be an app. It's not quite available yet, but it is coming out there. There is a very weird roadmap. The reason I say it's weird is because it talks about events within the crypto space rather than what it was doing. And I don't know if it's almost to fill its roadmap up. And then it gives some really weak excuse about the pandemic and the Ukraine mean, they couldn't launch when they wanted to, but putting all that to one side, what we can actually see if I ever catch up with it is that they have launched the testnet in March. Okay, so at least they've got a product that's kind of out there at the moment. It's being tested. That still needs to be worked upon. They're hoping this month that the games and the app integration will also be available. They'll then go and beta test that in May and then looking to go live June, July of this year. So they've got a pretty tight timescale, but I would argue, you know, one of the things, it's great to be in AI. It's going to be a very booming sector, but you can't, you know, you may fall foul of if you don't launch soon enough with the right product. Don't just rush to launch for the sake of trying to get into the market. But if you don't have a product to really get some traction within this bull market, you may not actually make it as high as some of the other ones that do have working projects. Prime example being Render. Render is being used. It's being used a lot. And it's we're seeing the benefit of that, not only in terms of price, but amount it's also being talked about. You know, BitTensor is definitely there. It's very hard to talk about with all the 32 different things that's going on, especially in such a small segment. But I just think timeline, they really need to make sure that, yes, the testnet works, the beta testing of the ecosystem works, and the apps and everything else they want to do with it. So when they do launch, they can launch it. What's interesting is a video streaming application where you effectively get paid to watch stuff. Okay, that could be an interesting little side hustle there. But here's the team. So because Ian mentioned that we had ex Nvidia. Now there's only one. I've gone through all of their LinkedIn. I'm not going to bother. Of these four, it's only Michael Hara that's actually ex Nvidia. He's a VP and he's only an advisor. Now he wasn't. As far as I understand it, American companies just call everyone a VP. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he is significantly higher. And I don't want to undermine anyone that is a VP. I'm sure it is. But I don't know whether or not they're just shoving that in there because, hey, NVIDIA and AI going hand in hand at the moment. But the core team certainly don't have any experience from NVIDIA. They do have plenty of experience. And they're even on the social medias doing hackathons and talking about coding and way over my head. So I'm not trying to dismiss that. However, my absolute biggest red flag of the whole thing, and in terms of red flag, I'm not saying it's a dodgy project, but there is actually nothing on the tokenomics bar from how it's used. I don't know from this website or their white paper how many tokens they're going to be. I don't know what the emission rate is. I don't really understand sort of burn rates and everything else. And so that makes it very difficult for me to make a judgment in the way that I like to judge projects on where it's going. And because of that, and because I'm quite happy with my exposure within the AI sector, this is absolutely not for me. It is a new project, so if you are going to put something into it, you know, just bear in mind it is a new project. It's not a slight against the team or anything like that, but if you don't give me the tokenomics, then I'm not going to bother wasting any time looking into it because it's no longer an educated assessment. It's just a guess and a gamble. And right now, I don't want to guess and gamble. Right now, I just want to knuckle down and get things right. So that's just my 8-minute version on that, Ian. Hopefully that's okay. You know, and please keep more coming. I'll keep on looking at them, whether I do it over the calls like this, if we've got enough time, or I just talk about them in Discord. But more than happy to give my 2 cents on it. The next question is from Dave, which is, what is the best cold storage? Tandem seems to be the go-to these days. Well, so I'm going to go through a few my personal thoughts in a moment, but what I would say is any cold storage is better than nothing. So regardless of what I have to say, if you have no cold storage right now, you are putting yourself potentially in a hole. So get something, whatever it is, to suit your I know your cost or your budget, whether or not it's your ease of use, because some of them are not as easy to set up or as easy to interact with, whatever it is, but just make sure you have something. I will say it till I'm blue in the face, but if it's not your keys, it's not your crypto. Okay. And I'm not even necessarily talking about from a security point of view, although there is definitely a security point of view, and having that extra barrier to prevent fraudsters and scammers and hackers from taking your funds is there, but also just not storing your crypto on centralized exchanges. I mean, if at the absolute least you have to do is put it in a hot wallet, but I wouldn't do that either. And the only reason with the centralized exchanges, one, it could be an FTX and go under, but two, if they have a hack, or if they are paper selling stuff or whatever it may be, you need to sell it and suddenly it's down for maintenance or whatever, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage. So find a cold storage that is within your budget and make sure that you do use them. Now, in terms of what they are, there's so many out there, but the big names, you've got Ledger, you've got Trezor, you've talked about Tangent, which we'll have a look at as well. There's ElipPal, and there's I can't remember what, I think there's one called Keystone, which people in the group have been talking about as well. So there's definitely stuff out there. I think most of them have pros and cons. Ledger's pretty well known. It's fairly easy to set up. I don't personally find it that easy to use because it's two little buttons on the top, which I'm just all fingers and thumbs, so that's no good for me. It certainly had a bit of thud around it with this whole, can't remember what the actual element was, but it was to, allow a back-end entrance to help you out. But ultimately, a lot of people thought, well, wait a second, is that a vulnerability that could be exploited and people could gain access to your wallets? Because obviously, you've got to remember, all of these hardware wallets, they're not actually storing any of your crypto on them. It is just a user interface or an additional step to an online wallet that is solely accessible by yourself. Okay, so that's just to clear that one up. I use the Trezor, which for me is this little bad boy, and I use that predominantly for my Bitcoin, but I also use it to back up and secure my MetaMask wallets. And again, I don't even need to go through it here, but if you haven't used either your Ledger or your Trezor to back up your MetaMask wallet, reach out to me into the group. I'll link you to a video, and it's a 5-minute video, very easy to set up and move across. And the other one I like is Tangent. I don't think I've got it in my wallet. Maybe it's over here. Yeah. The Tangent is just like a little credit card. And so all that I do here is based on an app on your phone. And yeah, you just interact with wherever you want to send your crypto from your Tangent wallet. You put in your wallet address, and then to actually make the transaction go ahead, you just have to present your phone like you would for contactless payment. So your card to the phone, and then it will send it. The only thing just to bear in mind with Tangent, it's called me out a couple of times, is you can store an awful lot of crypto on there, first and foremost. But let's just say that you're storing PIF, like I did, for example. To actually then send PIF, I needed to have, I think it was PIF, Solana, because it needed that for the gas fees. So if you had to store in it using the Ethereum wallet on there, you'll need Ethereum there. If you're doing Binance Smart Chain, you're doing Polygon, whatever it is, you always need to make sure that you actually also send some additional crypto over there to cover the fees. When you want to remove the other assets you have, you can move those. So just bear that one in mind. Anything else on those? I'm not too sure. I mean, hopefully, there's plenty of choices here. I don't know a lot of these. So I don't, I've heard of SafePal, I suppose. But yeah, I just typed in a list of crypto hardware wallets. I'm sure you can narrow it down. I mean, just because I've used it before, but if we go on to Trezor as an example, you go into the Trezor, you can have a look on the coins and all the coins that it supports, how it works. Now, Ledger definitely holds a hell of a lot more, and you can also stake from it. Certainly you can with things like Polkadot. Tangent holds an incredible amount of cryptos on there, but not everything. But yeah, you can just, if you've got a particular token you want, you can go onto the individual website and check to see if it holds it. So we could have just done it the easy way. I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking, oh, I don't know what I'd like. I want it to support my Casper. So you go Casper. It's not there. It does wrap Casper for you, but that's not what you want. But you go, okay, well, what about Tau? So again, doesn't do Tau. It does do Tau Inu, but obviously that's because it's an ERC20 token. So yeah, so you can just go through and have a look at it that way. Your Tangent doesn't support Tau, but it does support Casper. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we really have at the moment. I can't think of it off the top of my head that I put there. Hey, Amric, how are you doing? You didn't miss too much, but we are going to try and keep this on short tonight. Okay, next question. Chris' current thoughts on the Tesla chart, maybe a buying opportunity. Well, this is the Tesla chart, and you know, it's definitely having a bit of a downturn at the moment. This is a daily chart, but it's zoomed massively out. So this is going back 11 years, nearly 12 years. There's a reason why. I just wanted to take this in. And for those of you who haven't really looked at the Tesla chart, at the bottom, you can see things like ease. Okay, these are earning reports that come out every quarter. You're not going to believe it. Was it Chris that asked the question? It was Chris. It's the earnings report for Tesla today. So at 9:30 tonight, might be 10:30 actually. I think it's 9:30 though, because I'm just trying to work out with the difference. The Tesla earning report will come out. And so typically what you have is green is it's a good earnings report, red is a bad one, and obviously we don't know at the moment. And then the S's on the chart is where they've sort of done a stock split. And one happened in 2022 because suddenly the price of Tesla was like at $1,200, and then they readjusted the chart to reflect that they split it in four. I think it's 4 or 5. Might be $1,500. But the point I'm trying to make from that is, if we look where we are now at the moment, you know, Tesla's not been down here. It's been down here once in the last 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. It's not really since October 2020 that we've kind of seen it at this level. Yes, it did dip down in January 23, but it rallied back up. But for the last few months, and you can see these earning reports here, the last two earning reports have not been great for it. So, and to answer your question about, you know, is it a good time? Depends on how you're looking to invest in it. Long-term point of view, you know, 2, maybe 3 bad quarters in a row that could be presenting themselves with ideal buying opportunities. I mean, hey, I'm just going to throw a fib up because, you know, I like to do that. And funnily enough, look what happened with this fib. It literally came down and bounced back up. We've already lost the 236. So, hey, maybe they might head down a little bit further, retesting this little bump here. We'll have to wait and see. But research if you are seriously interested in this and whatever stock it is that you're looking at, you know, and we are coming up on earning seasons, and have a research of it. It's so easy to do. You know, you just type in Tesla earnings. You don't even have to leave Google if you don't need to. So we've got the one due today. We've seen that the last 2 have been red, not great. Scroll down, hey, just have a look at the news articles that are associated with it. Tesla shareholders brace for the worst results in 7 years. I mean, that says a lot in itself, doesn't it? Tesla set to report first earnings. Elon Musk on the war foot. And I've not even bothered opening these up, but you get the idea. You know, you can kind of see what the news is around it and where sentiment is. Now, of course, could be wrong. They could actually post some positive results because they've been able to get a smart accountant that's been able to do it, and we would see a massive shift. But if I was to guess at where this was going solely based off these news headlines, it's not looking particularly good. And when you add on it and that, last week Tesla said they were going to lay off 10% of all global staff because of poor sales. That's, you know, from this quarter. We've also had that nearly 4,000 Cybertrucks have to be recalled because of a faulty accelerator, because it's making it go a lot faster than it should. So Cybertruck was a new big thing, and they've all got to go back. They've all got to go back and have a faulty accelerator pedal. And the quick fix, although I can't be bothered to go into it, is they're just drilling a screw into it at the moment, which isn't exactly what Tesla's known for in terms of clean design. But yeah. Or could it also be that actually last year we had that issue with the Delaware, it might be in this year, Delaware judge overruling Elon Musk's pay, because he didn't take a salary from Tesla, but you know, he made some agreement 12, 15 years ago that if he got it to a certain level in stock value, they'd pay him $56 billion. Well, the judge said that wasn't right. And now there's going to be a revote on whether or not that's going to go. Again, you know, these kind of news stories can help you, Chris, and anyone else that's interested in investing in Tesla to try and paint a picture of where it's going. But I'd get on that. Well, maybe not get on that, but I'd watch some videos or try and find some news articles in and around the earnings call or immediately afterwards. So not only can they digest and spit out in, you know, simple language exactly what the earnings report means, whichever way it goes, we may also get some key nuggets and sound bites from whoever is talking on the earnings call and talking through things. I don't know if it is actually Elon that does it or someone else, so I don't want to speculate. But the whole point is, absolutely have a look. It's a great time from a fundamental point of view to have a look there. So I kind of hope that's helped without diving into it too much. And then pause for what's your thoughts on the current market conditions? Do you think we'll have the halving dump and prices only going to move upwards, or do you think the proper dump is still to come? So I think that's a good question, and I'm ready to just answer that by having a look at the Bitcoin charts now. So let's jump on through it. This is the monthly chart that I always update each month, but I have just tidied up today. And what can we see? As I mentioned right at the beginning of the call, since the end of February, Bitcoin's been in the range from 60,000 to 73,000, and we have bounced between the top and the bottom of that. We've now hit the bottom for 3 times. Obviously, first time we got in there, second time here, and last week we hit it just prior to the halving. And as I said, we've had a nice little bounce back up. And so the real question is there anything to stop us here? Or are we actually going to make it back up to the top side? That's probably some of the best arrows I've ever drawn. And retest that $72,000 level and just continue this ranging pattern. And for me right now, just solely on this chart alone, which is a daily chart, it doesn't seem to be. We formed a nice ranging pattern. We've had a strong bounce off the $60,000 level. We're now closed above and continuing to trade above, if you will, 50 EMA, which is represented by the blue lines. There isn't any major liquidation levels within the ranging pattern that we're currently in, and we'll talk about those other ones in a moment. And so actually kind of feels that, yeah, okay, we might have a day or two where it meanders around or whatever, but if I was to, have to put a gun to my head and say which way I think it's going to go from here, and obviously it will be wrong because it's a gun to my head, there's nothing to suggest to me that it isn't going to make its way back up to that $70,000 level, shall we say, and might not happen tomorrow, might take a bit of time to get there. But the real question then is, what does it do at that level? Because have we had enough time of ranging around and we move back up, or are we going to see at least one more peak and drop back down? And obviously, for me, the jeopardy, if you will, is at the two extremes of those two levels, because they're the levels that I may look to trade, and I will look to trade. So I sold a few altcoins to reduce my portfolio last week. I think I told everyone that. And I bought some Bitcoin. And yeah, I bought Bitcoin at 64,000. I bought Bitcoin at 62,000 and 60,000. So an average of around about 62. And for me, I'm looking at a short-term hold of that Bitcoin. I do want to keep hold of Bitcoin, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to try and just see whether or not, or how it reacts in this upper half. That's not a half, it's an upper quarter. If it gets this quarter, and then how it reacts. If I see it get above 70,000 and then lose 70,000, I'll probably look to sell around 70,000, take the chance that it's going to come back down. And then ideally, I try and get it in and around that $64,000 to $60,000 level again, and just trade that. It's not a huge amount of Bitcoin. It's not the Bitcoin that I have from a business point of view. It was just from the alts that I sold. I moved it into Bitcoin. I moved most of it into Bitcoin. And so, yeah, so that's kind of where this, from a high level daily chart, kind of looks to be playing out. Now, if we just kind of do this. No, I'm not. I'm going to have to just go backwards for a little bit. Sorry, you have to excuse this. I don't want to delete all drawings to get rid of everything. Let's have a look at the yellow boxes. So for those that haven't seen this before, yellow boxes are effectively just representations of the high block chart. So the high block charts is liquidation levels, and I'm just simplifying it and overlaying it onto my chart. So I have updated them. And what's interesting is this gray one was one I had here last week, which obviously got taken out, but nothing's actually started to replace it yet. What's actually happened is the 75 to 73,000 has dropped down a little bit. It was around 74,000, so it's getting closer. I'm really squeezing it in from the top. And this block down here, 77,800 to 73,300, and the 50,600 to 49,000, actually, make sure I've got the right thing on. I have. It's kind of merged into just one block. It's just one big block now. You do look on high block. That, let's just zoom in, shall we? It's just one big chunk now. There's a tiny little slither of space within it, but there's a lot there. Okay. How do we read that? Let me go back to the chart. So what this effectively means is that very recently, a lot of people have been quite happy with the price action because these are all short liquidations. Okay, so the price would have to drop down here, and long liquidations. I knew it got long run. So people are wanting to go long, so their liquidation points are below the price action. So if the price were to move south, they would end up getting liquidated. But there has been since the halving, the weekend, the dip to 60,000 has been a very strong reaction to that. And we started to see that people have come back to place more trades. Now, a lot of people got taken out by this wick. So there could just be people, reestablishing a new position from that. Or people can also be seeing the pattern that I've just talked about and thought, well, we've had 3 strong bounces here. There's a good chance for a short-term trade. So, we know market makers like to mess around with us. Maybe that's what they look to do. But as we're sat in the middle of that ground, I don't think there's anything right now to jeopardize certainly how I'm treating things from sort of just holding that Bitcoin and waiting to see where it goes. And you know what? If we get to 73,000 and it rockets up, I still want to have Bitcoin in my portfolio. And so we just accept the additional Satoshis that it gives us, and we wait for another opportunity to either swap that into alt or to try and do a little trade on the way up. Try and have a look at it, from some of the other metrics that I like to use. So if we throw Fibs up and we also have a look at previous ranges. So if we take this large move up here from January, I'll tell you what, I'll do this first and then I'll come back because I missed mentioning something. I got this on the right chart here. Okay, that's a bit better. Sorry. So from that January move up to the 73 high, we can see these levels. And again, look, pretty perfectly. The 382 Fibonacci level has worked quite well as an area for it to bounce off. So I'll always hark on about Fibs. I'll always draw them on my charts because 90% of the time, a Fib level is exactly the level in which price turns around at. And, I know other people like to keep charts clean, and that's fine. That's their trading standard. If you're here watching what I do, this is what I do. And again, it's worked very nicely there in turning that one around. Then if I just throw it onto the weekly, the Fib's not going to look right, but bear with me for a second. And we have a look now at what was around that level from previous price. So if we just take that, pull it across, now throw it back onto the daily, move across here. So again, this price action that we had in around April 21 or March and April 21, that sort of 60 or 58 to 61,000 level, support and resistance all the way through, support and resistance, or mainly support really, a little bit of resistance at the end in the October and November before the blow off top. And so, yeah, of course, Bitcoin price remembers. And so it's had a hard time in and around here. So it is an ideal place in which it would find support again for it to bounce off. And that's what it continues to do. So again, from the Fib point of view, that worked out quite nicely. The other thing that I should have put on, I'll just do it on this chart. It's just easier to go back. There's not too much noise on there. Just bear with me. Just going to throw on the EMA. It is the 50 EMA, which was what was on the previous chart. Okay. So, on the daily, yeah, that's fine. Get rid of the Fib. Don't need that now. Oh, actually, I should have kept it. So, what have we seen now? So, like what we had in October. So, we went from October to January without price action interacting with the Fib, the 50 Fib on the daily. And it always comes back. Whether it ranges around for a while and the 50 gets to catch up or it drops back into it, it always comes back. And so we saw that. That's exactly what we saw right here. Shot away, ranged here, 50 caught up, hit it, broke slightly below, and then off to the races. Slightly below, off to the races. So just put that Fib on here, just in case there's anything from it. Yeah, okay, actually perfect. Let's get rid of this Fib. It was a repeat. It was an absolute repeat. It shot up, lost the 50, hit the 382, reacted from it. Okay. Get back to this one once I close it off. Of course I did it like that so I couldn't see the top. So we had an even stronger reaction following the ETFs. We lost the 50 EMA. Sorry, as in we shot away from it. Then we ranged so the 50 could keep up with us. We dropped below the 50 EMA, 382 on the daily quarters, and we've strong bounced back up exactly like what we're doing here. So now doesn't mean we're going to shoot straight up again, because we had a little bit of ranging time again, just as, you know, getting ourselves in and around that 50 EMA, getting customized to it again, getting familiar and friendly, because we know we're going to bugger off for some time again. And so that, you know, that could easily continue to play out. And, you know, the fact that the pattern there worked seemed to suggest that, okay, there's definitely things we might want to keep an eye on. And I dare say you take that another way. I don't know why I keep doing this. Sorry, let me just... There we go. If we have a look at these ranging patterns, you know, as I said at the beginning, we may look back on this as just an accumulation zone. Okay, whale accumulation zone. We'll get the data. We'll see the amount of Bitcoins that go from exchanges to wallets, and particularly to whale wallets, and think, man, these guys messed with us. They really, you know, they got us excited. They sold a bit. They gave us a little bit of fear. They bought. You know, that evidence, I'm absolutely certain will come out, as it always does. But, you know, we've already emphasized that this happened here. We shot away. We ranged, built some stability. We shot back up. But again, you know, this happens so often. We shoot up, we range, and then we build up and we go again. You know, okay, the length of time in which we range may differ, but the historical data always says within those periods of ranging, that's when these larger wallets, we see that they move their Bitcoin, you know, from exchange. They're buying it, moving it from the exchanges, building up their wallets. That's the periods that they're doing at it. And I dare say it's exactly what's going to happen here. So they're not thinking small fry. They're not thinking, oh, the halving's done, we're going to dump. Yeah, we may fall. We may fall. And we'll have a look at price drops now. We may fall another 30%. It'll be horrendous. We'll get down to 50,000. But they'll probably still be accumulating. Now, I might have a different tone if we do lose 60,000, just because we're not whales and, you know, we've got a different view. And there's not much between 50,000, 60,000 and 50,000. And so there may be a reason for us to have a look at things differently. But from their point of view, they just treat these as ideal buying opportunities, and we should too. And I think I personally, one successful, one all right move within these last 2 months with the Tau. But I have certainly got a significantly larger amount of Tau. You know, I appreciate it's not Bitcoin, but moves and how it's been treated from that same period by just, you know, being patient with the trading from that. And so, you know, that's all we also need to do. I mean, I think I've probably made the point, but, you know, this one again, at the beginning of the bull market, we had that shoot up, range, allow the 50 MA to catch up. This time it just kissed off it. We didn't lose it. We shot up again. We ranged, caught up, shot up again. Then we lost it. Okay. Then we had that micro dip in the middle. And now I'm just drawing all over the chart. Doesn't make any sense to anyone. But you can kind of see the point of what I'm trying to make. Well, hopefully you can. So then we can have a look at sort of some targets. And again, I've just put the fib on this chart. It's on the weekly now. So again, it is wick to wick, but it's on the daily. It looks a lot cleaner. You know, I prefer to go body to body. And what we can see here is some extensions, because now we're thinking, okay, we've got that ranging pattern here. Where can we go? Okay. Yep. Okay. All hell could break loose. And we talked about that last week, where we could down, but we haven't talked about where we could go up, because we're in uncharted territory. You know, we've said it so many times, never before at our halving and we already been at an all-time high. So we've got a bit more time. We've got the news. We know about the Grayscale micro ETF. We know about the South Korean, bloody hell, the Hong Kong ETFs. You know, Bitcoin isn't just for each individual country, it's worldwide. So if suddenly Chinese banks and banks in Hong Kong want to buy it, they're buying the same amount of Bitcoin, or the same Bitcoin that the US institutions are trying to buy. So we know somewhere there's going to be some demand, and we know because of the halving that the supply has dried out. So there should be some movement to the north. If general capitalism works as we think it should, and the markets continue to just generally work as they have done, supply and demand, we should see a move north. Well, where can we have a look at those? So the FIB extensions, okay, so these are 2, 3 that I have on there, and they could certainly be ones. But actually, if you do something a little crazy with this, you take from the top to the bottom, and I draw your attention. Interestingly, that level there. So now we can zoom in. But the 1272 and the minus 2172. So okay, the 272s, but I've taken from 2 completely different points at 2 different times. One was at the top of the market down to the bottom, and the other one's just from a breather point. But it's showing us a pattern area, which I'd say that sort of 82, 83, maybe 84,000 level could certainly be the next point that we go to have a little breather, have a little rest, wait for 50 EMA on the daily to come and catch us up. And so that is probably somewhere that I'd be looking, because I can't look left for price action anymore. Got to kind of go off fib levels. And so if I can find a couple of fib levels that are working for, in tandem with each other, then great. That's something that I might look at. You could argue that the 414s are close enough. It's 88.5 down to 91.5, so $3,000 difference. 3% difference by the time we get to that price, potentially. I think the 618 is starting to get a bit of a gap. But certainly that to me would not be surprised for us to see some sort of reaction there. Whether we range for a couple of months, I'm not here to say that. That'd just be a target that I look for if we do finally break 73 and whatever it is we've changed. So that's for me where I'm looking at the moment. And in terms of going back to what felt like a lifetime ago, Paul's question, that's kind of where I see the market now. Will it dump? Will it correct? Well, let's have a look at some others. And so we've got Bitcoin dominance, which right now it's been as high as it's been for years. So we haven't been this high since April 21. So just before we saw the real move to the blow off top, well, not the blow off top, sorry, the 64,000 top. But we hit 67 and then we just fell away, and we're now starting to see it retrace back down. And hey, what we might see over the next few days and weeks is, when I find my brush, maybe we get a little recovery down to this level. Bit of noise in and around there, maybe 54, we'll start to see. Did you know Bitcoin did a 4x from the bottom, but MicroStrategy shares did a 10x? Oh, well, there you go. So it just goes to show. But those people who actually own the Bitcoin and plan to hold it long term may do better in the future. I do like the point you're making there. So yeah, so maybe we start to see it come back down, and what could that do? Well, we might see a little bit of I don't want to say an alt rally, but an alt bounce, altcoin bounce. And so we'll have a look at some altcoins a little bit later on. But if we also just have a look, because we look at the altcoin market, this is on the 3-day chart. Sorry, that last one was on the 3-day chart as well, but it's just so I can fit the data in. So this is total 3. So this is the entire crypto market cap with the exception of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And again, we saw some ranging it, big shoot up. It looked like maybe it could be a bull flag, but it probably turned into a triple top. We saw price melt, but we've seen a nice bounce back up. We'll throw some fibs up, as we always do. But there's also some other interesting things. So let's see if this works. Okay. So what have we got? We've got it spiking down to around about the 382. I mean, it's pretty darn close. Remember, this is billions of dollars here. But certainly reacting off the 232 and moving back up. So again, a nice little look there. But also, if you look at this, from the top, which is this one here, down to the bottom, it's a 30% correction. That's what we look for, isn't it? I mean, I know on the Bitcoin chart, we've only seen 15 to 20% corrections, but with altcoins, we are seeing those 30% pullbacks. So that's what we stride ourselves for. That's what we aim for a healthy correction in a bull market. So yeah, altcoins have hurt. We hold altcoins. Some people hold 100% altcoins. Probably hurt us a little bit more, but potentially it's just a healthy pullback. Actually, what we're seeing is we're going to see the alts kind of gain a bit more momentum. Maybe Bitcoin dominance just starts to slow its ascent. Maybe even start to sort of plateau. Don't know why I'm coming up with all these mountaineering analogies, but you get the point. So yeah, interesting that we saw that 30%. And you know, if you want to say, well, wait a second, you haven't got Ethereum on there, and that's, you know, a large share of the altcoin market, I'll throw it on, and that is, you know, pretty much exactly the same, 29%. So altcoins have dropped 30%. That's what we look for, isn't it? That's the healthy pullback. Now we're going to feel great. And, you know, when we throw up fear and greed index, if I can find it. Oh, 71. I mean, we're tipping back already. So we're getting quite greedy, because I'm sure only a couple of days ago it was down at 62. Coin market cap has it at, have it at 65. They used to have a little section here, didn't it? Oh, it's there. It's right in front of my eyes. 65. So, you know, it's not like we're massively cooled off into neutral at any of the stages. We have got to the lower side of greed, and I think that's probably about fair, given we are in a bull market, and despite pullbacks, I don't think retail are massively here yet. So we've got the battle-hardened crypto enthusiasts that have seen it all. And so, okay, low 60s, I'm all right with that. The fact that this one's jumped up to 71, I think that's heating up a little bit too quickly for me. But hey, we'll see where that one goes. I know you were screaming for it, so we'll have a look at some old coins and just see where they are going. We're doing all right for time at the moment, though. So let's start with Tau. We'll work our way down the list. Is there anything really worth seeing on the lower time frames? I mean, what would say Bitcoin on the 12-hour? Zoom in. Drops on the 4, it's probably even worse, but it's kind of just shaking up this one. I'm sure someone could go, there's a compression of some sort here, but I don't know. I think I might be forcing that one. But it's certainly snaking up this. And so maybe we do see a little bit of a pullback over. And instead of it getting up to 70,000, we have that retest. 4-hour, I mean, that snake's looking even more predominant in terms of where it's going. But, you know, 4-hour, we've got the 200, the 10, the 20, and the 50. And at the moment, we're trading above all of those. So that's good. There's a lot of EMAs that are there to help keep us above that. Plenty, actually, not much time left on this candle. 27 minutes. I mean, yeah, you could say that it is a high test, but we're, you know, in the 4-hour, we're in a rising market. So I'm discounting that one at the moment. And maybe we continue to go along. Moving on to the daily and going back to Tau. So Tau's had the drops, had a nice bounce back, but you know, looking at it now that we got our EMAs on here, we are still trading below the 50. We're still trading below the 10, sorry, the 20, but we are trading above the 10. But we are still at the moment in a downtrend. Okay, so we've got lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So it's still that movement there. And so I don't think by any, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think we're 100% out of the woods, is what I'm saying. I think there's still a possibility that we could move down. I think really it's going to come down to Bitcoin ultimately moving the majority of the market. Individual tokens may slightly deviate from that. But there's definitely something there. If we go through some of these, as we talked about earlier, okay, there is on the 12-hour this compression. And so actually maybe we haven't given itself the benefit of the doubt. And all we've actually done is, yes, we've broken through the wrong way, because normally we'd expect us to go south. But we've just broken through. Now we're co-bearing back. We want to see a strong bounce off that. And that's what we want to see. And I want to see us get above this. I will feel more confident at 530, because on the 12-hour, that's us trading above there. But really, I mean, I don't want to have to wait till 780 in the Binance spike. But certainly, at this level here, there's a lot of noise at 560. So getting in and around that is what I want to see. If we break it down now onto the 4-hour, just get rid of that. Get rid of this. I mean, is there an argument here for a potential bull flag? So we've got this fall in here, this fall in here, and then we got, you know, this is the wick up, and then maybe when it breaks, we got that movement. So take it now. Let's just do it, shall we? Don't know why I didn't do that. We got maybe this move up here. Duplicate it. I know it's hard to see because it's white. I'm not really sorted out my colors. Well, why can't I duplicate this? Oh, well, I'll just move it, and then we see it go there. Potentially. But on the 4 hour, we are above the 50. You know, we're still in the cloud, but we're above the 50. We've bounced off the 10. We're still above the 20. We're below the 200 though. And now on the 1 hour, now we are getting into the weeds a little bit, I accept. There actually is a bit. The double top there. We're just testing that neckline. We want to see. We want to see that strong bounce. We want to see it from the 12 hour because it's the Kobo. We want to see it from the 4 hour because it's the bull flag play now. And we want to see it from the 1 hour to negate the double top. So, you know, I'm not saying we're crossing our fingers here, but that's what we want to see. Move on to dot, take it a little bit further. Okay, so we just get rid of, keep it on for now. So dot it's had that strong move down, and it's not looking great. A bit like Ethereum at the moment. We've had the strong move up, down, dead cat bounce, big drop down. But we have started to see a recovery and potential, these signs of a bottoming pattern there in and around 630 level. But, you know, with it's getting squeezed by the 200 and the 20, and we've still got the below in the 50, we've got to make some moves here. But if we throw a fib on, we didn't do it on Tau. Apologize. I'm not going to bother going back. I mean, that's why I do it. That is why I do them. Look at this, 6 down to the 618 perfectly, and it's having trouble at the moment at 382. So now we've got the fibs. We've got a bit of an understanding as to why. And so, yeah, it's got a bit of work to do at the moment in and around there. But again, I need it above the 50. So really, we're looking at probably 883, get back to this 236 level, maybe try and range a bit, and then start to climb back up. Or it's just going to have to build some market structure between 740 and 650 like it did over here the end of last year, and get it some sort of position to build back up. But what I wouldn't want it to do is then turn into an awful head and shoulders. But anyway, that we'll see. We'll just watch that one. I'm not going to bother with Ethereum because I kind of talked about it, and it's kind of a similar thing. See, it's battling under the 50 on the daily. Look at near. So near is actually different. So near's looking strong, and I like the price action that we've got from near. Throw a fib on straight away, and we can talk about it after that. Taking it from the same spot we've been taking all the others. Okay, so that nice move up around on there, we lost it, and you know we found support. I mean, it kind of wicked to all of them. 618. Sure, if I did it on the 12, it looked better. The 5, it's wicked down a few days, and then we found that support on the 382. And now we've catapulted ourselves up. We're above the 10, the 20, and the 50 outside of the cloud. And we're now mingling in and around these guys. Okay, so we're getting back to near all-time, well, not all-time highs, but local highs. So we've had the drop like the rest of the market did, but we've had a really strong recovery there. And if we did, and I will get the Bitcoin near chart out in a bit. I bet that'll look very strong against that too. And we're starting to move away. So maybe we see a little bit of, you know, down to 660, 650 as we just sort of start to build a bit of market structure in and around here after such a strong move up. But I think that one's certainly looking better. Rose, a bit like Dot. It's had the fall down, and we're now, I mean, there's so much there. We've got the 800, the 10, the 20, and the 200, and it's below pretty much all of them. So that's a lot it's got to get through. But I dare say if we take the fib, I'll throw it, see what happens. Look at it. I might have to get a slogan made of take the fib. Sounds quite good. But again, this one at least, you know, the 382 holding support at the moment off that. And that's 4 days worth. And it's actually the 200 and the 10. That's the 800, sorry. So maybe it's actually found a decent shelf for it to just build across, catch its breath, take out that vector, and then challenge the 50 at around about 12 cents. 50 EMA, that is. Render's a bit like near, I think. AI project, obviously, had the move up, bounced down. 200 EMAs caught that nicely, but we've had the reaction. We actually had the Kobo off the 50, but now we're trading above it. We're still inside the cloud, though, something definitely to watch. But let's get the Fib out. Where was I being taken? I think from here. I mean, I should just probably stop using it now because you just know every time it's going to find it. 618 and the 200 EMA just caught it beautifully, and that's why we probably had such a strong bounce. It just went through them all. Okay, yeah, lost it, came back down, retested it, but those were pretty long wicks. So there's definitely people going at $5.94. This is a fantastic price for this project. I'm buying, and I'm buying as much as I can, as quick as I can. We move on to TownU. I don't really like charting this one. Feels like this thing's dead, I'm afraid. Sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. I know this is only, excuse me. It really is stuck in the back of my throat. Wow, that is, I can hardly talk, it's that bad. Anyway, I know this is only the Mexi chart. I'm going to start crying in a minute because it's that bad that I want to cough and I'm trying to hold off. We'll have a look at deck screener, but for me, I just don't like how the price action is going. There is very little demand for this. It's a meme. Memes are not like proper crypto project, which can have a use case. And if people forget about this, it'll be very hard. Crying. I am crying. Get them back. So, yeah. If you're in it, I've got a bit in it still. I'll hold on. I got some sales, but not looking particularly good. Oh, that is struggling. And so these are the ones that I sold: FET, Flux, PIF, and Entangle. So Entangle I sold at a loss. PIF I sold at break even. Fetch I sold a little bit of a profit, and a loss at Flux. So Fetch is the one that's done well and recovered. And I think I've got to buy. I've got to make a decision to either buy some of that back now, or I'm going to be buying at a loss. I do think it's a decent AI project. So one makes sense why it's had that recovery. I got too confident then. But this one had such a strong move that I've pretty much completely missed. Again, bounced down to the 382, 161, sold at, but came back quite nicely. Again, it's still in the 50 cloud, but it's got all the hallmarks of a good strong bounce like Near and Render has. So if it's one that's been on your radar and you're not in it, it could be a good buy level. I mean, even looking at the price action from March, it's kind of resting nicely along that. And I think probably will end up getting some at this level. Entangle, I mean, I took a bit of a kicking on this one because I got in on the day it launched thinking, fine, watched it ride up, bought some more on the way up, and then I've got out at where I originally got in. So unfortunately, I bought some after that, so I made a loss. But it's kind of it's this one can't really chart it too well right now. But again, it's had a move, but it's starting to head back down. I may get an opportunity. I know this is running now to buy back in at a better price, but we'll just have to wait and see with that one. The last one that I want to just go over is Casper, which I don't hold any, but I know some of you do. So before today, I was very much thinking Casper looked a lot like Ethereum and a few of the other ones that I had sort of talked about in terms of we'd had that nice move up, some sort of topping pattern, a few dead cat bounces, and down we go. But actually, today and yesterday, it has had some strong moves. It's interacting and battling against the 50 EMA. It's actually hit it perfectly between it. So, I'd say with most of the alts that I've looked at today, this one's still looking relatively strong. Questions now, I don't follow the phases, so you'll have to forgive me and have a look at that detail yourself. But really for me is, have we got a bottoming pattern? Is this a nice bold bottoming pattern? We're going up. Could you even argue that there was some sort of double bottom there? This being the neckline. We're going to re-attack it and go. Or what we're actually seeing is one half of a double bottom, which I think is what the phases is suggesting we may have. We'll find some sort of neckline reaction somewhere, don't know where, another test around about bottom of 11 cents, and then we make the move. So certainly from the daily, I'm liking what I've seen. The 200's come along, it's rescued it, and it's shown great strength on it, because we're talking about 8 or 9 candles there, and then it's finally had the move up. And hey, we've still got 4 hours until today closes. It could easily clear the 50 EMA, but if it doesn't, and as long as it stays above minimum the 5, because the 10 and the 20 are so close to each other, I think it's got a good opportunity to give another attack again tomorrow, or a couple of oncoming days. But not too bad there. But I should have done a fib, shouldn't I? I mean, the only problem with doing the fib on this one is pretty much retraced it all the way back. I mean, okay, the 786 is where it's playing, and now we're bouncing between the 5 and the 618. Again, the fibs work. So that's where we are with that. You know what? Oh, portfolio. So here's my portfolio of where everything currently sits at the moment. I've zoomed in a bit because people say they can't normally see it. There's the business one, still 100% Bitcoin. Personal side of things, Glimmer, Render, BTC, Rose, USDT, there is some, Dot, Tau, and Near. I don't know why it's done that. Near's 28%, Tau's 27%, and Dot's 24%. It just randomly has knocked a couple off each way. Greg, in answer to your question, no, I'm no longer in based AI. That was only one of the ones I actually got out at, a profit. It wasn't as good as it could have been. I also jumped out of OPSEC. I don't think I'm going to bother going back into either. I have come to the realization, it's only taken me 2 cycles, that I do want very few cryptos. I do. And, we get rid of BTC and we get rid of USDT. I'm holding 6 cryptos. So there's 6 cryptos. That's an hour a day of research of me just going around, making sure I at least understand where things are, even if it's not too much. So I'm happy with all of those. Thanks for joining us, Cliff, and enjoy the rest of your evening. So I'm quite happy. I do want to add PIF back, and I'll probably add Fetch. By the time I take away BTC and USDT, okay, we're down to 8. I'm happy with that. I can manage that. But also, it was just getting too much. And then, you add that extra stress and pressure of when it is time to get out, having to work out all of your exit points for all of those. This can be a lot cleaner for me because I can focus on it. So as it stands at the moment, and hell, by the end of 2025, I'll be the first to admit I'll probably have 20 tokens. But right now, this is where we are with it. So yeah, that's where it sits. I don't know if anyone's got any final questions or anything they want to ask before I shoot off. But whilst you're thinking about those or typing, we're only about a month away from the cuddle. I haven't booked my ticket yet either, but I am there and I will be speaking at it. So it'll be good to catch up with any of you that are going. I don't think I can unfortunately stay the night, but I'll try and stay for as long as I can because I've got to get to Newcastle the next day. Actually, it's north of Newcastle, so it's too long a drive, really. But yeah, I don't think anyone has put anything, so I'll just take that as let's just have an early one for once. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know if you like it a bit shorter. An hour and 10 minutes, probably better than an hour and 20. Gives you a bit of your evening back. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for persevering through, especially when I was about to cry my eyes out because I was trying to cough. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. I'm back in Discord. I'm sober again. So I'll try and answer everything as best as I can. And yeah, other than that, one final thing, sorry. There is no trading pub on Thursday because Simon's away. If I've got time, I think I'm free Thursday morning. I mentioned this last week. I'm more than happy to just hop into a voice room in Discord. If anyone's just have a chat, you just want to talk to me rather than me talking to you, and maybe ask me some very direct questions about your portfolios or any questions you have about that, I'll probably look to try and get that arranged and send the time out. Probably sometime around about 10 till 12, maybe I'll just sit in there. But I'll get Lewis to send something out, and if anyone's interested, I'd be more than happy for you to hop in and have a chat. It'd be good. Didn't even have to talk about crypto if you don't want to. But yeah, other than that, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great night, and I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.